I never thought a wooden bench could make my grandfather cry. But that morning, standing by the lake in our HOA community, he just stared at the spot where his favorite seat used to be, the one where he sat every sunrise reading the paper and feeding ducks. It was gone, and in its place stood a shiny metal sign. Reserved. HOA use only. Karen Bloomfield, our neighborhood's self-appointed queen, had decided my 82-year-old grandfather wasn't the right image for Maple Ridge Estates. That was the day I realized some people don't crave order, they crave control. When I first moved in, I honestly thought I could handle the HOA politics. I'd grown up around them. They were annoying but manageable. I moved back here to take care of Grandpa Charles after he lost my grandma. He still walked slowly with his cane, proud and stubborn, the kind of man who believed in mowing his own lawn and paying his dues on time. He'd taught high school history for 40 years and still wore a collared shirt every morning like he was heading to class. The Maple Ridge Estates looked perfect for him, clean sidewalks, a quiet lake, friendly enough neighbors. But then there was Karen. Karen was the kind of woman who looked like she'd been born holding a clipboard. Blonde bob haircut, pink blazer, pearl earrings, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She ran the HOA like a personal kingdom. Every time she spoke, it sounded like a public announcement. Property standards are what keep our community strong. Uniformity is pride. Exceptions create chaos. It was all code for, I make the rules, you obey them. The first time she targeted us was over a bird feeder. Grandpa had hung it near the porch so he could watch sparrows from his window. 2 days later, we got a violation notice for unauthorized exterior modification. Karen delivered it herself, smiling like she'd done us a favor. I laughed it off at first, figured she just needed to feel important. But the next Sunday, things got personal. Grandpa loved that wooden bench by the lake. It had been there for years, old faded, but solid. That morning I helped him down the path, steadying his arm. He was smiling the kind of smile that reminded me of my childhood summers. Then Karen appeared, strutting across the grass with her clipboard. "Excuse me," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "this area is reserved for active residents. We can't have liability issues with seniors sitting unsupervised near the lake." I froze. "Active residents," I repeated. She nodded, tucking her chin smugly. "It's in the Community Wellness Initiative. We're promoting healthy engagement. Your grandfather might be more comfortable at the senior patio near the maintenance shed." The way she said comfortable made my blood boil. Grandpa's hand tightened around his cane. He didn't say anything, just stared at the water, eyes cloudy but calm. I told her that bench was public property and she didn't have the right to remove him. She smirked. "You can check Section 7.2 of the bylaws. It gives me authority to designate spaces for community benefit." I didn't know it then, but Section 7.2 didn't even exist. She'd made it up. The next morning, the bench was gone. All that remained was the sign. Grandpa didn't complain. He just stopped going out in the mornings. He sat by the window instead, staring at the empty space by the lake. Then came the letters. 3 in 1 week. Unauthorized ramp installation. Improper flower arrangement. Trash bins visible from street. Each came with a fine. Karen had found her next project, us. I tried reasoning with her. I went to the HOA office, a small converted storage room that smelled like disinfectant and power trips. "Karen," I said, "this is harassment. The ramp is for my grandfather. You can't fine us for that." She looked up from her desk with fake sympathy. "I understand your frustration, Marcus, I really do. But rules are rules. We have an image to maintain. This isn't a retirement home." I left before I said something I'd regret. But that night I heard Grandpa's voice through the wall. He was talking to himself. "Maybe she's right. Maybe I don't belong here anymore." That broke me more than any fine. For a while I almost believed her. Maybe I was making it worse by fighting. Maybe the HOA really did have those powers. I started doubting myself reading through the bylaws late at night, searching for that stupid Section 7.2. It wasn't there. I read every page, and the more I read, the angrier I got. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was inventing them. Then one evening, as I was bringing in the mail, my neighbor Linda called me over. Linda was one of those quiet types, polite nods, never gossip. She looked nervous. "Marcus," she whispered, "you should see this." She handed me a flash drive. The footage came from her security camera facing the lake. It showed Karen in broad daylight, dragging Grandpa's bench across the grass, shoving it toward the water. She laughed, turned to someone off camera, and said, "Let nature clean up the clutter." Then she kicked the bench. It toppled in with a splash. I felt my stomach drop. That wasn't just pettiness, that was cruelty. Linda looked guilty. "I didn't know what to do," she said. "I was scared. But this isn't right." That night I didn't sleep. I compiled everything, the fines, the fake citation screenshots of her emails, and now the video. The next morning I filed a complaint with the state HOA Oversight Board. I didn't expect much, those agencies move slow, but I needed it on record. Then I waited. A week later, Karen summoned me to the monthly HOA meeting. "We'll be discussing your conduct," she said in her email. "Attendance mandatory." When we walked into the clubhouse that night, the air was thick. Rows of neighbors sat in folding chairs. Karen stood at the front in her usual pink blazer, smiling like a politician. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "We have a serious matter, a resident who has repeatedly violated our community's values. Mr. Marcus Chen has refused to comply with multiple directives. His behavior sets a poor example." I could feel people staring. My palms were sweating, but I stayed silent. She pointed toward Grandpa sitting beside me. "And his ramp installation was never approved. It endangers our aesthetic harmony and property values." That was it. I stood up. "You want to talk about property values?" I said, my voice shaking. "How about we talk about integrity?" I plugged in a USB drive to the projector. The screen flickered, and there she was. Karen on video, dragging the bench, laughing, shoving it into the lake. Gasps filled the room. Karen froze, color draining from her face. "I guess Section 7.2 covers vandalism too," I said quietly. She snapped out of it, scrambling. "That video's taken out of context. I was clearing debris." Linda stood up from the back. "No, you weren't. I filmed that myself. I heard what you said." The room went silent. You could feel the shift that moment when power starts to slip. Karen's smile cracked. "This is ridiculous," she hissed. "You people don't understand how hard I work to keep this place beautiful." One of the board members, a man named Richard, leaned forward. "Karen, did you authorize those fines personally?" She hesitated. "As president, I have the discretion." "That's not an answer," he interrupted. "You fabricated rules. That's abuse of authority." Her voice rose sharp, desperate. "You're all turning against me because of one edited clip. I built this community." The board's chairwoman, Mrs. Douglas, stood up calm and deliberate. "Karen Bloomfield, effective immediately, you are removed from your position as HOA president for misconduct, discrimination, and vandalism of community property." Karen's mouth fell open. "You can't remove me. I am this HOA." Two security officers stepped closer. "Ma'am, you need to leave." She looked around the room, searching for allies, but no one met her eyes. She grabbed her clipboard, clutching it like a shield, and stormed out, muttering, "You'll regret this." The door slammed behind her. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the board turned to Grandpa. Mrs. Douglas's tone softened. "Mr. Charles, on behalf of the board, we're deeply sorry for what you've been through. The bench will be restored and your record cleared." Grandpa just nodded. "Thank you," he said quietly. When we stepped outside, the night air felt lighter, almost like the neighborhood itself had exhaled. The lake shimmered under the streetlights. There was no bench yet, just the empty patch of grass where it used to be. But Grandpa smiled anyway. A week later, a new bench appeared, sturdy, freshly stained, with a small plaque that read, "In honor of those who built this community, dedicated to Mr. Charles." Grandpa didn't make a big deal of it. He just sat down, resting his cane beside him, and watched the water like he used to. I stood behind him, half expecting Karen to pop out of the bushes waving a rule book, but she was gone, for good. As I watched the sun set behind the lake, I realized it wasn't just about a bench or even about an old man's right to sit by the water. It was about dignity, the quiet kind that doesn't need permission. People like Karen think power comes from control, but the truth is, real power is the moment you stop being afraid of them.